Hi everyone, I'm Dave. In this video, I'd like to talk about the major life themes report that we're providing for the people in our community. Here, basically what we're going to do is to go look at an example of one of these reports. We'll go to the purchase page, we'll click here on the view sample reports, takes us to the natal sample reports that we have. Going to scroll down here and we're going to see that there's a major life themes report. We're going to open that in a new tab. But because it's a natal one, we're also going to open up the natal wheel to go with it so we can take a look at that. And here, what we have is we're going to look at this fictitious person that we have again. And this particular person is our Joe Doe. And the majority of his planets are on the bottom. So I'm going to position that here. And then we're going to look at this major life themes chart interpretation. So the thing that's interesting about this particular report is that this report is based on harmonics. It basically, when you think about harmonics, the concept is if you ever play the guitar or you ever tuned a guitar, you'll have an E and an octave above that, you'll have another E. And what happens is as you tune those strings, what happens is, if they're out of tune a little bit, you'll get to where the sine waves generated by both strings are out of sync. The tops and the troughs don't quite line up. Because it's an octave off, what happens is the one that's an octave higher should have two peaks. The second peak should line up perfectly with the first peak of the lower string. And so as you go up different octaves, you're able to get sine waves that are slightly different, but they have to peak. Every peak has to be perfectly aligned in order to get that string in tune. So the same thing happens here in the charts. So somebody took that concept and applied it to the charts. And so the way that they do that is the basic idea is, let me bring up this particular document here. So I wrote down some notes here about this. Major life themes. They use harmonics. When you look at any astrology chart, any natal chart, you're going to find that the first harmonic is a conjunct. It's when two planets are on top of each other. When they are, basically, there's no degrees apart, 360 degrees, which is a whole circle, divided by 1, they're conjunct. If you go to across, so the first harmonic is directly across the chart at 180 degrees. Take 360 divided by 2, you get 180 degrees. So that particular harmonic, which is the second harmonic, is known as the opposition. You go to a third, take 360 divided by 3, we get a triangle. So we get 2 points in the triangle. That is known as our triad. So these are very common configurations. You've seen them in every chart, everybody's talked about them, every astrologer's talked about them. Then you go a step farther, 360 divided by 4, you get a square. Well, these are, again, common. If you divide by a 6, you get a sextile. They talk about these all the time in charts. Now, what about a 5? What if you take 360 and divide by 5? What do you get? Well, you don't get a whole number. You don't get these magic numbers that normally unfold. So here, if you do that with a 7, or you do it with an 8, or you do it with a 9, you don't get magic numbers. So the most common ones that everybody uses are the conjunction, which is 360, the opposition, which is 180, the triad, which is 120, the square, which is 90, and the sextant, which is 60. So then the way that they do harmonics. So let's say that you have two strings on the guitar that aren't the same note. How many cycles do you have to go through before the peaks actually line up? So they might not line up on the first, they might not line up on the second, they might not line up on the third, but there's eventually a point out there which they will line up. What is that point where they do line up? So that's kind of how these harmonics work. You take two planets that are on the chart. Well, the mechanics. Let's talk about the mechanics first. If you kind of understand the mechanics, the rest of it will kind of make sense. So on the chart, we'll look at a chart here. If you take a typical chart, you basically, on the ascendant, you start out at 0. And as you go around the chart, every sign or every house, depending on if they're equal or not, is going to be 30 degrees until you get all the way around to the other side and you're at 360 degrees. Now, if you consider that, then you can take each one of the planets, like Mercury here might be at 9 degrees in the chart. The sun, 17 degrees. Then we get into the chart, we get to Jupiter is at 10 degrees in the next house, which means it's at 40 degrees. And so you keep adding these up all the way around. And then in order to find the harmonics, let's come back to the document. We want to, we already see in the chart, it's easy to see the opposition, the trian, the squares, all the software programs show you that. But what about the fifth? If you want to do the fifth, if you want to get to the fifth, you take the location, the degree relative to 360, you multiply by 5, and then you remove 360s from that number until you get a number that's under 360. And so you do that with all the planets. And you do that, every planet that's in the chart, you do that math on it, you figure it out, and then you look on the harmonics chart, you look for any planets that are conjunct, because that would be representing the sine waves coming together at a peak, which is the conjunct location. Once you find that conjunct location, then you can do attributes. You can do an opposition of that. You can do a square of that. You can do whatever you want from that chart. But to get the meaning, you want to roll it all the way back to the natal chart. And then you go look at the configuration. So I have an example here. I'm not going to go through the example in the video, but if you read the document, it's going to be posted with this. You'll get the feeling for it. And one of the cool things about this is, let's see here, is this paragraph right here. Also, another key is that the formations in the harmonic charts tend to only happen during small opportunities during the day. Unlike the natal chart, where everyone's born in that day may have a similar layout, harmonics show nuances that appear during short periods of time. These are the things that we're looking for to differentiate you from everybody else born on that day, or everybody else that's born on that month, or everybody else that's born in that 7-year period. Whatever those bigger astrological influences are, we want to drill down to those fine nuances. So in this particular case here, when you think about all the things coming together, how many harmonics do you need to go out in order to find that little attribute that happened for you in your chart? Well, let's go look at our example. So here's our example. Here's our Joe Doe that has his chart. He's got a bunch of planets on there, but I went ahead and ran this major life themes chart and did the interpretation for him. And so what we do here is, well, first off, this paragraph here describes the exact configurations that they're looking for. So you can do the math and go figure out where those harmonic locations are, but you really only want the significant ones. You want the ones that involve multiple planets, like 3 planets, or they have to be in opposition, they have to be conjunct, they have to be in some really meaningful location. And then you take that configuration out and you take it back to the natal chart and you figure out what it means. And so fortunately, the reports do all that for you. And so in this particular case here, what we're looking at is this chart is going to run and go do those harmonics. And in the description here, they're saying they analyze 108 harmonics. They're going to look out, they're going to go for the 7s, the 8s, the 9s, the 10s, all the way out to 108 and find any little attribute that stands out. And then they're going to order them in the chart. The chart, the one that shows up on the very top of the chart, is going to be the most precise or most harmonious conjunctions that are most harmonious peak combinations that happen. In other words, when you look at a chart and you look at an opposition, there's an orb of space in which it's considered a opposition. That might be 2 degrees or 2.5 degrees, depending on how the astrologer is interpreting it. And the closer you get to being on the exact degree, exact minute that opposes it, that would be considered perfect. Well, when we go out in the harmonics here, for this particular chart, this example, they find a Venus, Uranus, Neptune 32nd harmonic. So all these planets have come together for a perfect conjunction 37 revolutions out, which gives a particular description for this character. Your romantic relationships are likely to be unusual. You are dreamy, idealistic, excitable, and it is difficult for you to think clearly and objectively when involved in a romantic relationship. It is best not to rush into commitment quickly, as it takes time to see your relationships as the ingredients for long-term commitment. They found one little attribute goes off to describe that 30-second harmonic. To me, that's pretty cool. It's like, could you find that with the naked eye in the chart? Probably not. Computer reports are going to help you find that. So we go look at the next one. Here's another one. Moon conjunct Venus Jupiter. And so this is 0 degrees 23 minutes. So pretty close, pretty accurate. Moon conjunct Venus and Jupiter. Let's go look at that. So we have the moon. We have the moon conjunct Venus and Jupiter. So look at that. Here we are. In the chart, they're all grouped together. They're pretty close. And so what they've done is they've gone out and found that this combination is a harmonious combination, or harmonic combination. And they have a description that goes with it. Here's another one. Mars conjunct Mercury and Uranus. So Mars, here's Mars, Mercury, and Uranus. So Mercury, where's Mercury? Is Mercury on the top of the chart? You're probably all seeing Mercury right here, and Uranus. So Uranus is right here. So notice that this one here, you probably, Mars, if I got that right, Mars conjunct Mercury and Uranus. Mars, Mercury, Uranus. So when you look at the chart here, the descriptions in the chart, the lines that are drawn for the major configurations aren't shown, but there's a harmonic for this, and shows that there's some really good symmetry in the chart here. Once you've noticed the harmonic that's been pointed out to you, you can see the symmetry. Okay? And so this whole chart is built exactly that way. It goes out and finds those attributes and then draws them to your attention so that you can interpret them. And so the astrologer has interpreted those and creates this report. And so it goes on down the list here, has a bunch of them that it continues for quite a while here. And but the cool part about this is that, even looking at the last one here, it's a 47th harmonic that I found here. Mercury, Jupiter, Uranus. Mercury, Jupiter, Uranus. So, and that's over Uranus right here. So Mercury, Jupiter, Uranus. So there's this configuration going on here that has this particular description. So without a computer report, you're never really going to see these. The astrologers, how likely are they to go find this? It's probably pretty unlikely, because are they going to run the report for you and look at it? Well, you probably go pay for it. You're probably going to pay $300 to get somebody to go run all these different reports to be able to find those things. Well, here we have it. We have the major life themes. These major life themes, the cool part about them too is that when I've read them over on different charts, they seem to hold up for people as being the cycles that they go through. So if you think about the harmonics, how far out a harmonic is, as you go through these harmonics, you get attributes that shine through. So it's typical. I mean, if you're thinking, I bet you these will work with karma, going back in past lifetimes, or it might even work going forward. Who knows? One day we'll probably have some astrologer that will see the pattern, will recognize it, start to interpret it, and we'll all get to enjoy it. But anyway, I just wanted to give you a basic rundown of what the major life themes report look like. It's not a big report, but it really seems to bring out some cool information that if you kind of understand how it's happening, well, gives you a better appreciation for what it is that they're doing for you. Anyway, come join the community. Come look at what we're doing. I'm going to go over a bunch more of these reports. Come visit us at Mahala's Astrology. Talk to you later.